Hiya, Martin here. Thanks for joining me for this demonstration live from the Woodturning School here in Hampshire in the UK. I'd be really grateful if you would give this stream a like, a share, and if you are not a subscriber already, please do hit that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever we do either a live or produce a standalone video on its own. As this is a free to view demonstration, please be aware that there will be some product placement throughout the demonstration, and also YouTube may be placing some in-roll ads for you to take a look at. Please do watch them. It goes a long way to helping support the channel and help give us a little bit of money that we can actually continue doing what we are doing for you. Now, without further ado, here's a little bit of what goes on here at the Woodturning School and also our other business, Hampshire Sheen. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in that many minutes. Do you ever have the urge to make something with your own hands? Here at the Woodturning School, we can help get you started. We have a range of professionally led classes suitable for complete beginners through to the experienced turner. Come and enjoy the art of turning wood into bowls, pens and so much more at the Woodturning School in Hampshire. Let's explore your creativity and turn it into craftsmanship. We'll help you discover the joy of wood turning, the thrill of creating a unique wooden item, and the pride of saying, "I made this." Before we crack on with the demonstration, let's just have a little think about PPE before we get started. When in the workshop, make sure that you are doing everything you possibly can to look after yourself. That includes wearing a full face shield like this one, or at the barest minimum, a pair of safety glasses like these. Or for the best protection, you could wear a full face shield and respirator setup like this one, but make sure the batteries are charged before you start. When you're sanding, make sure you are wearing a suitable dust mask or a half mask like this, or one of the powered respirators, and you have your extraction running and windows and doors open as well. And if you are using any chemical products or colours, make sure you look after the skin on your hands, particularly if you have sensitive skin, by protecting them with some suitable gloves like these nitrile ones. And finally, make sure that you follow the manufacturer's instructions for the lathe, any tools that you use, and any other products that you apply to your piece. That's it. Please do enjoy the demonstration and have fun and be safe in your workshops. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, good evening, good evening. I do hope you are all well. Thank you very much for tuning in. Apologies, it's been a couple of months since the last demo. We've got a few minutes before we actually start, so tradition dictates that we go around the room and say hello to everybody that's here, or at least those who I can see. So we've got Terry in, Charlie, Malcolm, Hayley, Adrian, good evening Adrian, Nigel Harvey, good to see you too. Hayley, Malcolm, good evening. Good evening Clint as well. Jennifer and Leisure, of course. Good evening everybody. I do hope you are all well. Yeah, I will crack on with exactly what we're going to be doing at the right time. Good evening Paul. Hi Brian, Buster West. Quite excited about this in a funny sort of way. I've been trying to figure out exactly how I'm going to do this for most of the afternoon. So I hope you all had a good Christmas. I know it seems a long time ago now, but I hope you all had a good Christmas and a very happy new year. And you've got some turning in over the last few months. Good evening Todd in Dallas, great to see you too. I do hope you are well. Andrew at Wyvie Woodshed, good evening. Do I need to do that yet? Yes, I do, sorry. I'm all prepared, honestly. I know exactly what I'm doing. Right, it's nice to see plenty of people getting into the chat. Good evening, Steve Hackett. Nice to see you. Oh, and Paul Kavanagh as well. Hi, Paul. Long time no see. Boop, boop, boop. Mike Evans, hello. Leisure, yes, I actually do have gloves with me this evening. I'll probably forget to wear them, of course. Okay, 2 minutes and we'll get going. Oh. I shouldn't really be drinking coffee in the evening, but it keeps me awake and it keeps me wired for you guys who are tuning in for this. Evening, Chuck. Right, that's enough coffee for today. Right, okay, it's 29 minutes past the hour. Right, shall we get started then? Oh, Dr. Gloomwriter. That's cheerful name. I hope you're well, Dr. Gloomwriter. And JV James, hello, and Helen as well. Right, and Hollyhaven Crafts. Let's crack on with this evening's demonstration. So thank you very much indeed for tuning in this evening. I do, as I said a little earlier, I do hope you're all well and you have managed to get some turning in since our last live demo, which I think was sometime in December. So what are we going to do this evening? Well, we are going to do sort of a decorative piece out of this bit of tulip wood. It's somebody's going to ask me the measurements, so It is just over 12 inches wide. So it's actually 306 millimeters wide by, oh, that camera's gone a bit skewy. Whoop, it's gone a bit skewy that way now. Good evening, Brent and Peter Dixon, hello. And it's just about 1.5 inches, 35 mil. Well, it's not, it's an inch and a quarter thick. There we are. So we're going to do something that is primarily decorative this evening. It could work as a wall hanging similar to these, but a little bit smaller, or you could put it into sort of a plate stand, something like that as well. So it is primarily a decorative piece, which means functionally it's utterly useless, but it's going to look really pretty, I'm sure. Okay, so first thing we've got to do with this piece is get it round. Now, as you would have seen in the opening thing, do make sure that you're doing everything you possibly can to look after yourselves in your workshops. Now, I do generally turn when I demonstrate wearing a pair of safety glasses like these rather than a full face shield. It's more comfortable and the audio is clearer for you. And if in the comments you could let me know what you think of the new mic and the audio quality coming through the microphone there, please do let me know. Evening, Philip Greenwood, nice to see you too. So I'm going to bring up the tailstock just to give the piece a little bit of support in here. The piece is mounted onto a faceplate with a couple of spacers behind there, so bringing up the tailstock is a really good idea. We've got plenty of depth going into the piece with the screws, but it's always a good idea to bring the tailstock up, particularly with something that's kind of thin like this. The lathe is plugged in from earlier on. There we go, let's just give that a little spin up. Camera 1. There we go, let's see.
The sound is perfect, people say.
Oh, magic, thank you. Okay, there we go. So we've got the tool rest in there nice and close. I've also got the tailstock camera in here as well. So you can see exactly what I'm doing with the tools. So we're going to start with my favourite tool of all, which is my 3/8 bowl gouge. This is a Robert Sorby Excelsior 3/8 bowl gouge, sharpened to 50 degrees. It's a fantastic angle to use. Let's just get that tool rest up to the right height, shall we? Let's pull it up just a little bit. I like to get the tool rest high enough that I can present the tool just a hair below centre with my usual handle down like that. You can see that just there. So let's fire up the lathe, get a little bit of speed running through it. Not so fast that it vibrates, but fast enough that we can get a decent cut. Okay, here we go, kicking off the live demos for 2025. We'll do a nice little push cut through there. That's nice, we'll just have a look at that over the top. Notice that the bevel is running parallel to the tool rest. And that's going to give us, a really nice clean surface. Just to make sure that the piece is nice and round. That's good. I'm not going to worry about this little bit of tear out on the edges here, simply because we're going to be losing that anyway. Now, I did have a think about doing this piece actually a little bit off center, which I think we'll do. Are we going to do it off center? Yeah, why not? Okay, so I've actually got the piece properly round now. You know what? No, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it off center. I need to plan it out a little bit more first. So we won't do it off center. Sorry. Okay, now let's go across the bottom of the piece and make sure that we've got a nice flat surface. This piece has been sat in the workshop for quite a few weeks now, since we brought it in from outside. This is ready for one of our airbrushing classes, and it's warped just a little bit, so it's not quite flat. So I want to make sure I'm working off at least this area here as being flat, or as flat as possible. And you can see that by bringing up the live center, I've got a tiny little mark just in the middle there to give me my center. So that's a good place for me to start. Just pull the tourist up a tiny bit, so I can start just there, and then rock my body backwards nice and easily. This tulip's really nice to turn. It's nice and soft. It's a good wood to learn off, or it's a good wood to practice on. So that's given us a nice flat surface across the bottom there. Now for when we reverse mount it, I want to use a relatively large tenon. So I've set my dividers up. To a tenon that's good for the C jaws that are on my SK114 chuck. So we'll just mark that on. Remember, if you're going to do this, you only press on the left hand one. Need to come in just a little bit. There we are, it's that mark just there. But don't know if you can see that. Oops, wrong button. Okay, now of course need to work on a foot. Now for those of you who have been following me for however long, I like to work in thirds. I do like to work with a slightly more specific ratio than a third, but I'm certainly not going into that this evening, and that will be for another demo in a few months' time. So when I work out my thirds, I like to do it by eye. Just use the right camera. Just slow the load down a little bit. Slow the load down a little bit more, and I'm going to do it at arm's length, and I'm going to mark a third somewhere around there. Generally speaking, my rule of thumb is if it looks right, it generally is. And although the rule of thirds is sort of an accepted norm, personally I prefer a foot of a piece to be a little bit smaller than... why did I do that? I did that too early. Look at me getting all carried away. I need to turn the tenon first. So I'm going to bring the tailstock back up. I'm getting all carried away. I'm all excited about doing a live again. And I forgot to cut the tenon. So just while I'm doing this, if you do have any questions at all during the evening, please do leave them in the chat. And when possible, Natalia will run through any questions that may be there for me, and I'll be very happy to answer as many questions as I possibly can. Bear in mind, you know, if you do ask a question and it's missed, I am sorry. With lots of people in the room, it can get quite busy. So let's get rid of some of this wood down so we can make our little tenon. Sorry if I'm getting in the way. Go past my third mark and come right in here. Go right in there to the tenon mark. Let's go over the top, see if you can see that a little bit better. It's been so long since I've done a live, I've forgotten which way my buttons work. So some of them actually work backwards. So up is down and down is up, depending upon the orientation of the camera. So let's just come out there. We can make the tenon a little bit deeper just to be slightly better on the safe side. Just ease back through there. That looks just fine there. Now that is of course sloping in the wrong direction, so I will correct that using a little 10mm 3/8 spindle gouge. And the C-jaws from Axminster require a little dovetail. So I'm going to line the bevel up parallel to the lathe bed. Let's get a little bit more speed running into the lathe. Wow, that's a good question, Leisure. Why did I choose tulip over sycamore? We've got tulip in the size that I need for this demonstration, and if I'm going to be brutally honest, it's cheaper than sycamore. Sorry if my head got in the way just then. Just use the spindle gouge just to tweak that, make sure that shoulder in there is nice and crisp, and just give it a little dovetail. Just there, that looks absolutely super. I'm very pleased with that. Let's just bring that camera back out again. Okay, right. Now I can mark the foot of the piece. Pencil. So just remember what I said a few minutes ago. I'm going to put the foot of the piece somewhere about there. I think that looks quite nice. Somewhere around there. Maybe you can see that if I just stop that. Good evening, Lucy and Chris Nunn. There we are. Is that camera actually in focus? Camera 2. Yes, it is now. Okay, good. Right. Now we've put the mark on for the foot, we need to do a little bit of shaping. Super simple shape this, but it's not quite as easy as you might think. What I'm looking for on this piece is a nice sweeping, elegant curve, and turning a curve is not as easy as it perhaps looks. It's very, very easy, particularly if you're learning to pull in a straight line along the tool rest, and of course that's going to give you a straight line, so I've got to forget that the tool rest is straight at this point. And just start to cut the corners off, and as I come round there I'm going to lean over to the left, and you can start to see there that we're getting a curve. It's a little bit steep at the moment, of course, because we are a long way from the foot. But I'm going to take it gradually, I'm not going to rush, and I want to leave a few millimeters on the top for the edge of the piece. That will become clear a little bit later. So that little pencil line I've just put on there, that is where I want that curve to end. So I'm going to take it nice and steady. Let's come round that corner nicely, leaning to the left, getting your left hand to help get the gouge round that little corner. Make sure that that curve is nice and gentle. Stop the lathe when you move the tool rest, it's always good practice to do that. And you'll also notice that I'm keeping my handle down. That gives me a nice clean, or as clean as possible, cut for a pull. Just coming up to that pencil mark there, and we can put the foot on. Let's just see if we can zoom in here just a little bit more. Let's get the foot on there. I need to raise the tool rest up just a touch for that, so I can get my angle nicely. There it is, lean into the lathe, and there straight away we've got a nice curve there for the foot. I'd like to get a little bit more speed out of the lathe, but there's a little bit of vibration, so I've got to be careful. Because the piece is warped a little bit and it's quite big, there's a little bit of vibration just running through the lathe. Let's go back over the top, stop the lathe and have a look, see how we're doing with our curve. That's not too bad, that's looking nice. So just in case you're interested, the lathe at the moment is running at just a hair over 1,000 RPM, so not particularly quick. Let's do one more cut just to see if we can smooth that out just a little bit more. I'm just going to take a little step back and have a look. Yeah, I think I'm kind of happy with how that looks. I've got a neat little foot on there. It could be a touch deeper. Yeah, let's get that a little bit deeper, shall we? Make that foot just oh, there we go. Right, you should be back now. I can see it. internet connection's fluctuating a little bit, but you should be able to hear me again now, but I will just carry on for the time being. I've got to do some sanding on the back. I won't be finishing the back. I'm going to save the finishing for the front. So as usual with my sanding, I will be starting at 120 grit. I'll be starting at 120 grit and running all the way through to 400. The other nice thing about using tulip is that it sands off really quickly. So that's 120 grit almost done. That's 120 grit. Now we'll go down to 180. Stop the lathe and let's just have a look at that surface. That looks really nice. I'm very pleased with that surface so far. 240 and then 400. Now if we stop the lathe just there, we can see that we've got a really lovely surface. We've got a really lovely surface here for this piece. Now as I said, now, as I said, I'm not going to finish the back of this, mainly because the airbrushing part of it is going to take quite a bit of time, so you'll have to bear with me on that. But I will finish it tomorrow because I'm confident this piece is going to look really quite swish when it's done. So that's the back done. All I need to do on that really now is seal and lacquer it. Yep. Question?
Okay, Barry's asking, any reason for using the drill rather than a functional bowl sander? Speed?
Yes, Barry. Yeah, good question. Why am I using a drill rather than a bowl sander? It's purely through speed. I do really love to use a standard bowl sander, but to be honest, when it comes to demonstrating, a drill is so much quicker, even though I do prefer to use a bowl sander, an inertia sander, like, hang on a minute, like one of those. You know, it's much nicer to use one of these than a drill, but just purely for speed, I do like to use a drill, particularly when demonstrating, unless of course I'm demonstrating sanding techniques. So I'm just going to take the faceplate off the back. Oh, Clara's here. My daughter has arrived. Hello, Clarabelle. So I'm just taking the the faceplate off the back. Get rid of that, and the two little, or the little spacers that I used just to reduce the depth of the screws a little bit. And then we'll put on the Axminster chuck. With the C-jaws, and I'll probably need the big long key for this as well. So we'll get that on. Go back over the top there. Brilliant. Okay, make sure that's on there nice and tight. Take the spindle lock off, and you can see, I think, how the face isn't completely flat, but where I left my pencil mark just here, I've got enough thickness. Oh, is that in focus? Okay, right, that'll do. I've got enough thickness there, so I won't have a very, very thin rim when I clean the top off in just a second. Can you switch the extractor off, please? Right, okay, let's clean the top of this off, make sure it's nice and flat before we work on the rim. Okay, find my bowl gouge again. I've got a nice secure tenon on there now. Make sure the tool rest is at a height where I can present the tool nicely on the centre line. Oh, let's bring that back up again. Because my main face camera has gone off, I'm having to use this one instead. So all my presets have messed up. Right. Get a little bit of speed going. A little bit of vibration, slow it back down again. And then we can take a few cuts across the bottom or across the top of the piece. Go easy when we're away from the piece. Remember, it is a big piece. And we want to be taking lighter cuts towards the outside rim because it's quite thin. And we don't want to put any undue pressure on the tenon. Just go easily over there. Let's just check over the top. That rim is now looking. Did I press the right button? Where are we? Yeah, that rim is now looking nice and even all the way round. Good, I'm happy with that. Now, because we've got some airbrushing to do on there, what I'm going to do is mark off a little bit of the bowl. I don't want to be hollowing it all out right now, simply because if I hollow it all out right now, I'm going to get overspray in the actual bowl itself, which is not ideal. So let's just get the tool rest over here. I like to have these particular pieces, the bowl part, the same diameter as the foot, which, if you remember from a few minutes ago, was about 1/3 of the diameter of the piece. Now, if I look at it from over the top, or you see it from over the top, I can hold my pencil here, look straight down there, and then I can see exactly where my foot is, which is going to be about there. So if we just look on the front here, oh, that's the wrong one again. There. You can see that I've got 3 different marks, and I want the outside one. So the first thing now is I'm just going to leave myself a little groove where the bowl is going to be, just there. So now it doesn't matter if I get overspray all over that piece. all over there. It doesn't matter because it's all going to be hollowed away anyway. Now, if you've done any hollowing, or rather if you've done any airbrushing on platters like this before, I personally find it's a really nice idea to have some kind of profile on the rim, either slightly convex or slightly concave. And I actually prefer slightly concave than convex, just because there's no real reason why. I just prefer it. I like that little dip on the side. It just adds a little bit extra. Perhaps it's a touch different to what other people are doing or have done. So what we'll do is I'll use that button. That's the right one. It's preset number 2, not number 3. Number 3 is for when we're actually airbrushing. So I want the lowest point of my little concave bit to be not quite halfway across, but somewhere just back a little bit. So I've got the lathe running. Oh, let's slow the lathe down a little bit, or drop the tool rest a touch. And we'll just do a little pull cut, just making it a little bit deeper to there, and then easing off a little bit as we come out to the rim. So we're making this part here a little deeper than the rest. I've just sped the lathe up a little bit, now it's far more balanced. There's my deepest part, and then ease up on the pressure, coming out, trying not to make the rim too much thinner. I think we'll do one more of those. Go a little bit deeper. And then easing our way out. Nice and easy. Stop the lathe there and we'll just have a little feel of it. That's dead. I've got a little lump just here, so I need to get rid of that little lump just there. That looks okay to me. Yep, that feels good. Right, can we switch the extractor back on, please? So, right, I've got the shape that I want. It's very, very slight. It's very, very slightly dished in just there, which is exactly what I want. Now we need to finish it. This is the surface that is going to have the airbrushing on. And when it comes to airbrushing, we've got to make sure that that surface is as smooth as it possibly can be. We're going to be using the Intrinsic Colour Collection for this, which is a range of dyes that we produce here at Hampshire Sheen, and dyes are designed to penetrate the wood, and just like most other colours, they're going to always penetrate the wood just a little bit, but when it comes to putting very fine lines into or onto a piece using an airbrush, we need to make sure that there is as little bleed as possibly possible on there. So we've got to make sure that our surface is as smooth as it possibly can be. So I'm going to sand this all the way down through 120, 180, 240, 400, 6, 8 and 1200 grits, just to make sure it is as smooth as it possibly can be. And when we get down to the finer grits, the 6, the 8 and the 1200, what will happen then is that the wood is going to start to get warm, and essentially it's going to start to seal itself. And I'm not going to seal the wood before we apply the colour, because I want the colour actually on the bare wood. I want the colour actually on the bare wood, and also masking tapes. Masking tapes don't play particularly well with sealers on the surface. So apply the colour still to bare wood. Right, I will whistle through the sanding of this. Again, I'll use the drill, find my glasses, put the extractor on. So this shouldn't take too long. Bring the extractor in here. That one. So we'll start with 120 grit, just to ease off any tool marks that are left on here. Then I can just refine that curve on the top there just a bit. Spend a little bit more time here, a little less time on the edges. There is a fairly large tool mark just there which I need to get rid of. That's not very good, leaving a tool mark in that size. Let's stop the lathe there and have a look. Actually, that looks pretty good. I need a little bit more right on the edge here. That feels okay. Take your time when it comes to finishing. Make sure your surface is as perfect as it possibly can be. Next grit, I'm going to clean the dust off just there. So the next grit's 180. Clean the dust off and check my surface. Yeah, I'm happy with that. I'm being careful not to get the piece too hot, because what I don't want to do is potentially add check marks to the piece where it's got too hot. So I've got to be very careful. So this is 240. Notice how each of the grits is, I'm spending less time on each of the smoother grits, because the marks I'm removing are getting progressively smaller and smaller and smaller. 400 now before we move on to the super fine ones. Get rid of that. Okay, now we're on to 600. Clean the dust off there. So now what I'm doing next is I'm just having a look at the piece. I'm trying to find
a nice angle where there's some light reflecting on the surface, because what I want to see is a little bit of a shine on the surface, and then that will tell me the wood is as smooth as it possibly can be. So that was 600 done. Now we're doing 8. Clean that off, yeah, and I can see that that's getting to a point now where it's getting a little bit shiny. So I was just switching the air filter on. So here's 1200, the last switch. There, lovely. Clean the dust off there. Stop the lathe and then find my spot to check that it's nice and shiny. Yeah, I can just see the light reflecting off it just from up there. That'll do. Okay.
That air filter we've got does a really, really good job. Can we switch the extractor off, please? Okay. Right. That is the basics of the piece done. Now we're going to stop for a break in a minute, and we'll just have a little 10-minute break. I know we're a little bit early, but a little 10-minute break will just help me get, will help me get set up for the airbrushing. So I think we'll do that now. I know we've been going, we've only been going about 45 minutes, but now is a suitable natural time for a break. So give us 10 minutes and I can get this mounted up onto the carving jig and stuff and get set up for the airbrushing. See you shortly. Oh well, that's not playing. It was all working so well earlier on today when I did a whole load of checking. So yeah, we will have a little bit of a comfort break, but I will be here whilst I get myself sorted out. So if you've got any questions at all, do ask them now, please ask them now so we've got something to talk about while we have a little break. The best laid plans, eh? I'll tell you what it might be. It might be because I did a graphics card update about 20 minutes before we came on. That's quite possibly what it could be. There's a lesson there, isn't there? Don't mess around with graphics cards the evening you're going to be doing a live demo. Right, let me sort these cameras out. Remember, we are still on a little bit of a break. Right, so that's camera 3. We'll call that preset number 4. We'll go back to that one as well. Camera 2. That's what it should
Alan
be.
says you could always sing to us.
I could always sing to you, but I don't know how many people are watching, but I don't think I would want to... I don't think I would want to punish everybody with that. Right, and we'll slide the spindle camera over the top here. Oh, swing that back that way. Terry, am I looking at the broken camera whilst I'm talking to you? I'm not, simply because I'll have to close OBS down to get it working properly. Let's lower that down. Okay, good. Right, so I will have a glass of water whilst, or a bottle of water. Oh. I might do this bit sitting on a chair because there is quite a lot to do. Does anybody have any questions whilst we're sort of on a bit of a break, as it were? I've got to turn the fire down a bit. I am absolutely roasting. Gosh, it's warm. Let's bring the chair around so I've got somewhere to sit, because as I said, this is going to take a little while.
Barry is asking, is that the Hope carving jig? I have yet to use mine in the workshop.
No, this isn't the Hope carving jig. This one is the Woodcut Pro Mount. Yeah, so it's the Woodcut Pro Mount, this one is. I might make that hole a little bit bigger, actually, looking at the what's it? Darling, could you open the back door a bit, please? I am absolutely sweltering. I've got 3 t-shirts on and long johns underneath my work trousers, and I am absolutely baking. So let's just lose the tailstock here a little bit. Yeah, I am properly toasted this evening. Right, okay, let's just crack on, shall we? I need my airbrush, which is down here. That should all be plugged in down there, which it is. Got my airbrush, which I can put there, and I also need the hot air gun, which is down here. Let's just plug that extension lead in so that works. Okay, right, so what are we going to do here? Well, if I give you a view over the top, I'll be able to give you sort of a rough idea on what we're trying to do. Yep, question?
Debbie is asking, will sanding to 1200 make the colors bleed as they will sit on a surface, or am I wrong?
Well, what we want is we want the colours to sit on the surface, Debbie. So sanding to 1200 gives that super smooth surface that we want, because if we leave too much open grain on the piece, then the colours will definitely bleed through the grain. And plus, with airbrushing, the colours come out atomised. You know, they're really, really fine. So by the time they hit the surface, they are almost dry anyway. So we want to just make sure that the colour just sits, excuse me, we want to make sure the colour just sits without bleeding. Hence why airbrushing on a tight grained timber like sycamore, maple is a really good timbers to use. This tulip isn't perfect, but it's good enough. So what are we trying to do here? Well, what I want to do is, if you remember the thumbnail for this video that went up yesterday, we had a lattice pattern all over the piece. But what I want to do with this one is make it a little bit more 3D. I want it to look like it's sort of disappearing off into the horizon somewhere. So by dividing the piece up in my head, I'm going to put this bit down here as sort of the lattice work down here with plain wood at the top. So it looks like we're looking down into the piece. And when I cut the bowl out, what will happen then is I'm considering painting it gold, but we'll see. I'm not 100% sure yet. You know, typical me, making it up as I go along. Making that gold, it'll look sort of like a weird matrixy, landscapey, Tron style grid. Well, that's the plan anyway. But I don't want any colour on the top of the piece here, so I need to do something to give that a little bit of protection at the top. Just a bit. I don't need a huge amount, because I want to sort of fade everything in towards the background there. So a little bit of masking tape. We will get through a huge amount of masking tape this evening, so I'll just put that bit of tape under there, and a little bit more tape, sort of under there-ish. I don't want it tight across here. I definitely don't want it tight, because any overspray is going to leave me with quite a harsh line, so I'm leaving that fairly loose. So we're going to grid it out. We're going to have our horizon line there, and then we're going to have sort of a fan, or an apparent fan, coming across here, and then grid lines behind it. When it comes to airbrushing, I always have myself with my little what's that called? That's a dentist kit. This is a little dentist kit, so it's got the tweezers in it, and it's got some picks and what have you, but I've also got a very sharp little sort of craft knife thing in here as well. We're going to be using that a lot as well. So where are we going to start? We'll start with a line across the top, I think.
A question from Barry.
Question from
What's
Barry.
your preference for masking tape that looks like frog tape?
Good question. This isn't frog tape. It is a very cheap alternative, and it's really good. When it comes to airbrushing, you don't really need super duper expensive tapes. Yeah, you don't need really expensive tape. Although this particular stuff is, this stuff is vinyl. It's a vinyl tape, so we can actually mask around little curves. If I just show you here, I can actually mask around a nice curve just there quite easily. So there's my rough horizon. I've just changed the plan. I will go with a horizon line just there, and then I'm going to put one straight down the middle. And the very center of the piece is going to be the vanishing point. It's important to have a vanishing point when working with horizons, because that's going to help give you the 3D sort of effect. Let me just put a little bit more tape across there actually. So as I have said, this is going to take a little while, so do bear with me. Do please keep asking questions. I'm very happy to answer most questions within reason. So there's the first one. So we're getting a sort of fan effect. I might do a little bit more of that actually. Yeah, I think we'll do 3. Then I'm going to do one roughly halfway round the circle, as it were. I'll do this as quickly as possible. Whoop. Let's make sure that is properly over the top of that one. Fan it out just a little bit. Little bit of a disclaimer here, everybody. I've not done something like this completely like this before, so you are on a voyage of discovery the same as me. That's about right. So we're just working on the fan bit. Now, because the video for the comfort break didn't work quite according to plan, even though it did this afternoon when I was testing it, what you missed out there is... Oh. Sorry, just concentrating. Yeah, what you missed out on there was the fact that this month in Woodturning magazine, I'm very pleased to announce that I'm the guest editor of Woodturning magazine for issue number 406, which is coming out next week on the 20th. I think if you are a subscriber, you'll be getting a copy or your copy fairly soon. And so it's a pleasure to have been the guest editor of Woodturning magazine this month. It was quite exciting doing it. They asked me, when did they ask me? Sometime around the Harrogate show, I think. Something like that. So it was an honour to do that. And there's a few pages about what we do here at the Woodturning School at Hampshire Sheen and what have you. So you might learn something if you want to read it. Just put another one over here. It's not absolutely perfect, but it's close enough. And another thing that we're doing is I'm writing a book. As you may have seen on social media, I'm doing a book of woodturning projects that is planned to come out towards the autumn. Certainly the end of the summer. It should be virtually ready for publication. So I'm looking forward to that. I've got a load of projects that I've designed. Some of them have been practiced. If you follow me on social media, then you would have seen a couple of those, couple of posts about the book and what have you. And the projects for those are being demonstrated live over on Zoom. I've given a lot of thought and I've spoken to a lot of people, and a lot of people have said that they'd be happy to throw a few quid my way to watch a demonstration of these projects. So they are paid for demonstrations. You can get tickets over at my website msaban-smith.com if you so wish. And the first one is, I'll grab it for you in a minute. The first demonstration is a week tonight. Oh, that one's not very good. Let's peel that one off and do it again. So the first demonstration is a project that I designed a little while ago, and it's a really gorgeous little box actually. Let's just pick it up. There it is. Here's the little box, nicely inlaid, cute little box, all turned out of obviously single piece of wood. But it's not turned in the traditional or the normal way for boxes. It's turned slightly differently. So if you want to find out how to do that before before the book comes out, of course, then feel free to join us over on Zoom this time next week. Right, okay, so there's
18th,
yes, that is the 18th website. All the booking stuff is at msabansmith.com/live. All the information's there for you. Right, let's do. There we go. No. Let's change the camera angle a little bit. Okay, so I've got the little fan thing coming across here. Now I'm going to go horizontally and fill the gaps here, here and here. And I'll just do two. Just do two. I won't do three. So we'll do those horizontally, fill the gaps. Make sure they're sort of even on both sides. Oop. Try and keep the tape as straight as you can. That's always a good idea. Unless, of course, you want to do something curvy. Oh, bugger, I've done... Oh, pardon me. Excuse my French. God. I forgot to do the shadows for this. Ah, what a wally. Glad I'm not doing this one as a paid demo. It's terribly unprofessional. Right, so, let's try that again, shall we? God, blimey. That one, that one, that one, that one. Right, okay, I am all over the place. So what we've got to do now is we need to put some shadow lines on. For something to look three-dimensional, we need to have some shadows. So that's the first thing to do. We've got this spread here, so we've got to put some shadows on it. I was getting far too carried away with just chatting because nobody's asking me any questions. So the other thing when it comes to doing stuff in 3D is we need to think backwards as far as our landscape picture is concerned. Although this is the first bit that we've put down, these lines here, these ones are actually going to be in the foreground of the picture. So essentially we're working backwards. We're laying the foreground down first and then we're building the picture up. So the foreground is at the bottom, then we have the midground, then we have the background on top. Takes a little while to sort of get your head round it a little bit, but that's the way it works. You've got to do the foreground first, and then the last layer you put down will be the background. So when you put the colours over the top of each layer on the way back down, you then do the background first, then the midground, then the foreground at the very end, which of course is the first bit that you've put down. Right, so let's do some shadows on here. Shadows aren't always black. In fact, they're very rarely black, particularly in art. Let me put some gloves on. You can have blue shadows, green shadows, purple shadows, brown shadows, that sort of thing. So we're going to start off with brown, or we're going to go with sort of earthy colours. There. We're going to go with sort of earthy colours. Can we close the back door, please? So this colour here is going to be the earth from the Intrinsic Colour Collection. I'm going to do a little test spray just to make sure I'm not throwing out a huge amount of colour here. I only need a little bit. That'll do. So there's very little colour coming out. And I just want the colour on either side of my masking tape. The smoother you can move the brush, the better that shadow's going to look. And I will try and do it as quickly as I can.
Question from Lydia.
Question from Leisure, yep.
What's your favorite cake?
My favourite cake?
Yeah, it's because nobody asking questions.
I saw you ask that question on Facebook earlier, and I've been thinking about it ever since. I'm quite partial to a coffee and walnut cake, but I also enjoy a good old lemon drizzle cake. And a ginger cake, and Christmas cake, and all sorts of different cakes actually. Right, use the hot air gun now just to dry that off. Now, one thing you need to bear in mind when airbrushing and using tapes and stuff is that the piece is going to look pretty ropey for quite some time. As each layer sort of goes on, things do look a little bit ugh, but have courage in your convictions. So now we're going with the first crossover. Ooh. The first bit of the lattice. I'm putting on two layers of, or two strips of tape here because I haven't got one quite wide enough for what I want to do. Just making sure that I get it even. I'm splitting the difference nice and evenly down here. That's quite important. That. Make sure it goes in nice and parallel. Ooh, drop the tape. So as I said a little earlier, these tapes are really good for doing curves and what have you. And they are a little bit more expensive than normal masking tape would be, but you can get lots of different thicknesses, and we'll be using probably 3 different thicknesses of tape here. And I'm going to put that one. No, I don't need that one. No, I'll leave that one just as is. Okay, now we're going to do the cross shadow. Now, so we're doing the shadow across here. Same as before, nice and easy. The smoother you can move the brush, the better and the crisper that shadow will become. Oop. Make sure that sticks under there. Okay, good. Right, next thickness of tape. I'm going to do 3 layers, I think. Let's just dry this off. So same as always when it comes to finishing, this is part of the finishing process. So we've got to make sure that every step is dry before we move on.
Stephen was asking, Madsen, good evening, what is the PSI on the airbrush, please?
The PSI I have on the airbrush is, I think that says 15, no it's not. No, it's about 20 PSI, but I'm using an airbrush where I can change the spread, as it were. So I generally work with about 20. Right, so we've got the next. I'm going to put this one over there, actually, fill the gap. I'm not going to worry about doing this one twice, so we'll just put that one in there. Notice that I'm still working from my centre line, so my vanishing point that's right in the centre. And we'll do one across each of these just to fill the gaps. It's always good to gap fill, otherwise you end up with stuff that looks like it's got holes in it. So I'm working as quickly as I can because I'm pretty sure watching somebody put masking tape on a piece isn't the most exhilarating thing you could be doing tonight, but I am grateful for you logging in to watch, because I'm sure the piece is going to be quite good when it's done. Split the difference again. Oop.
Question from Alan. Are cheaper airbrushes a false economy? Any recommendations?
Say that again?
Cheaper airbrushes a false economy?
Are cheaper airbrushes false economy? No. No, they're not really, I don't think. This one here is by a company called Airbrush Finger. And they're brilliant. I think this one cost me about 40 quid. I do have a much more expensive airbrush at home that I use for my model plane making when I get time to do it. And there's not a huge difference between the two, to be absolutely honest. I can tell the difference, but for the sort of airbrushing that we do as turners, or even quite a lot of woodworkers, there isn't much difference noticeably between the two, so you can pick up decent airbrushes for 40 odd quid. You don't have to spend hundreds on an airbrush, not at all. Not even on a compressor. My compressor was, I think, 80 quid. I've had it for about 5 or 6 years, something like that. The airbrush was 40 quid. So you don't have to spend a huge amount of money on them. Now we have Midnight Blue as the next shadow colour.
And before that was Earth, wasn't it?
Yeah, Earth was before that.
Dr. Gloomwriter is asking, does sanding to 1200 prevent any rising of the grain when using water-based dyes?
That's a good question, Dr. Doomwriter. No, it doesn't. We are using water-based dyes here, so the grain is going to rise up a little bit, but I'm not overly concerned because part of my colouring regime is to get rid of any raised grain from the use of the water-based dyes, and it takes seconds, and I've never really understood why people get unduly, or they seem to get sort of unduly worried about the grain rising with water-based dyes, when it doesn't take very long to get rid of the raised grain afterwards. I suppose it's a bit like, if you use a dull wood turning tool, how do you put it right? You sharpen it. If you've got raised grain on a piece after you've added colour, get rid of it. It's much of a muchness, really.
Simon is asking, When did you say your book was coming up?
The book will be coming out towards the end of the summer, early autumn. Thank you for asking. Just give that one a dry off. You could leave it to dry naturally, but the bits I'm most concerned about here are where the colour sits on the vinyl tape. It tends to pool a little bit, so if I put another bit of tape straight over the top of it, then it can actually smudge and then it will run into the grain, which of course we don't want. Oh, that's quite a long way out. That's not the right one. That's not the right one either. Let me zoom. There, that'll do. Now, so we've done this one. Now we've got to do the cross, the horizontal ones, and I've just run out of tape. Luckily, I have another pot. If anybody's interested, the tape I'm using is called Vida or Vader. Vida, I think. Although Vader sounds better. Darth. I picked this tape up from Amazon. With these gloves on, I can't pick up the end of the tape. Just use my knife just to pick up the end of the tape there.
Greg is saying, can't understand why you haven't used thick tape to thin the horizon lines yet.
Sorry, can you say that again?
Why you have not used thick tape to thin for the horizon lines yet?
Why haven't I? I don't understand the question. Why haven't I used thick tape for the horizon line? The horizon line's here. So I don't quite understand the question there. Whoever asked that one?
Greg.
Greg, I don't understand the question, sorry. Oh, thick tape on the horizon. Well, primarily because the horizon isn't going to be thick. The horizon's going to be quite thin because it's a long way away. Yeah, let's put one there. Unless, of course, Greg, you can see something that I can't.
DJ is asking, is that the bendy tape you use on the butterfly and grass bowl?
Yes, this is the same tape that I used on the butterfly bowl some time ago. Or the butterfly and grass bowl, yeah.
Simon is asking, how many of your many creative ideas will be included in the book?
How many? At the moment I've got 12. I'd like to get 14 or 15. But a lot of projects actually require very similar techniques. So you don't really need, loads and loads of projects in a book. Because a lot of the time the techniques are very similar. Let's put one across there as well. So I hope you can see how this is sort of becoming 3D. As I said, a little while ago, it will look really terrible until you start taking the tapes off. So do bear with it. And so we've got more midnight blue going on now. And I think what we'll do is we'll do one more. We'll do one more set after this. Oh, no wonder there's no colour coming out. In the bottom of these, or the top of these bottles, there's a little air hole. Because this is a siphon feed brush, I need air coming back into the bottle. And in storage, I use a little map pin in the little air hole. And all the colour stopped coming out because there's now a vacuum in there. So just by losing that map pin, I've now got the colour coming out that I want. Ooh, that's quite a lot. That'll do, and I'll change the colour in a second. So the last colour we're going to use, I think, is going to be plum. So we've got all sort of dark colours for the shadows. I could have used something like forest green, but I prefer the sort of the more night-timey colours, like, you know, a nice deep brown. Yeah, a nice brown and a midnight blue. And now we'll do some plum. Or am I going to do black? Yeah, I'll do black. I'll do black. Be brave, Martin, do black.
Dewi is asking, how often do you clean your airbrush?
How often do I clean my airbrush? That's a good question, Derry. I clean it every time I use it. It's always a good idea to clean it every time you use it because it will save you having to do it next time. There you go. That's good of me, isn't it? Every time.
What is the make?
And if you believe that, you believe anything. But yeah, you should clean it every time you use it. But I did clean it this afternoon.
What is the make of your airbrush, Nigel asks?
This one is a Fender. That's Foxtrot Echo November Golf Delta Alpha Fender BD Bravo Delta 182. There we go. Right, where are we going to go with this one? We're going to go and fill in that gap. Right, so the last one we're doing is just filling in the smallest gaps that we've got left. So this bit here, so not only do we have 3 dimensions going that way, but we've also got 3 dimensions going down into the piece as well. So each tape being slightly thinner than the last one is going to give the appearance of going down. It's going to give depth this way as well as that way towards our vanishing point in the horizon.
Are you going to Newark in March? Terry asking.
Am I going to Newark in March? Good question, Terry. No, I'm not. I have teaching commitments that weekend, I'm afraid. Just like most weekends, I'm teaching. Oh, I can't get this. There. Yeah. We're very lucky here at the Woodturning School. We are very, very busy with teaching, and we've got pretty much every weekend is booked up with lessons now until June at least, but we're also taking bookings into August now too. If there are any members of the AWGB watching and you fancy some training, I was chatting to Chris from the AWGB yesterday, I think, and if I remember correctly, there is a free class with me here at the Woodturning School coming up in July, I think it is. Could be July. Yeah, I think it's July the 22nd or the 26th, something like that. And you can, it's for intermediate turners. You can sign up to that and then come and join me on a clock making day. That's completely free to AWGB members. So if you fancy that, then take a look at their schedules. I'm not sure if they've released the information just yet. But yeah, do check on their website and check in Revolutions magazine that's coming out very soon. The information should be in there, and I'm pretty sure it's the 22nd or the 26th of July. It's whatever the Saturday is around that time. Free course with me here at the Woodturning School for AWGB members. Maximum of 5. Right, I'm nearly there.
Do you mean teardrop clock?
It is the droplet clock, yes. Right, there we go. I haven't got room for any more tape on there now, so I will do the final shadow lines on here in black. Ooh.
Chuck is asking, are you going to make it to SWAT this year?
Oh, Chuck, I really want to make it to SWAT this year if I possibly can. I do need to speak to Craig at Woodworld of Texas about that. But he's not been too well recently. He's had the flu, so I really need to speak to him to see if we can make it happen this year. I was gutted that, or we were gutted that we missed out last year, but the economy wasn't right. So we'll have to see what happens. Yeah, we'll have to see what happens this year. I can try. I really want to come. I love coming over to SWAT and visiting Dallas and Waco and all the others and seeing you all over there. It's such a lovely weekend. It's a long way to come for a weekend, but it's well worth it. Okay, now I'm getting really sweaty hands, so I'm going to take these off.
Jeff is saying, looks like you are slightly off center with that tape.
Slightly off centre, am I? I might be a little bit. Right, so that's everything on there now, and it looks really busy. It looks like a terrible mess, which, to be fair, it is. But we now have to take everything off very carefully, one layer at a time, and put the colours into the piece. And I am going to put another pair of gloves on because my lovely wife Natalia is here. Oh, her camera's frozen too. So I definitely need to start looking at the...
Good.
Yeah, Natalia was just sat there
was just
yawning her box off.
Not because I'm bored, no.
Yeah, right. Yeah, if I don't put gloves on, I'll get in trouble with Natalia. So I'm going to keep these. I'm going to do the colours mainly as red. So, or reds and sort of oranges, something like that. And because we're at the bottom now, and we've got lots and lots of dark colour, I'm going to put the lightest colour there because that's the one that's got to sort of show up over the top of all of those really dark, dark shadows. So I'm going to find the flame colour. Flame, there it is. find it in the box, give it a little test spray. Now the first layer to come off was the last one to go down, which is these. These ones here. It's very handy doing it like this using different thicknesses of tape. It makes it a little bit easier to see what you need to pull off. So we can pull all of the thinnest tape off now, being careful not to pick up anything else that's underneath. Ooh, like that. You don't want to be picking that up. Like that. Try and stick that down where it was.
Question from Tony.
Question from Tony, far away.
I take it siphon fed is better or easier than gravity?
That's a good question, Tony. I prefer siphon feed for turning stuff like this, because I can have all of my colours in different bottles and just squirt the colour clean out of the brush when I change colours, and then stick a new bottle on. You know, it's nice and it's quick, and it's easy. But for my model making, where I use tiny amounts of colour on the models, I do use a gravity feed, because it is just easier, and you use less colour essentially. But generally for turning stuff and woodwork, I'll use siphon feed. Sticky tape. I think that's all of the really thin ones. So we're going to use flame for this.
Don't you change the camera?
I have changed the colour.
Camera.
Oh, change the camera, sorry. There we go. So the flame's going on, and you can see where we've put the tape, and we've peeled it off, you can see where we've got the shadow from the previous layers. That the flame colour is now going over the top of. So this is the very lowest in our 3 dimensions. This is the very background, so of course it's going to be the darkest. Just make sure I've got them all.
Question from Richard. Are the colours thinned down or straight out of the bottle?
Good question, Richard. No, the colours are straight out of the bottle. They're available in 125ml bottles, and you can use them in an airbrush straight from the bottle, no problems at all. So this layer I will also do as flame. There we go, and you can see, let's just zoom that out just a little bit. It looks like a real mess, doesn't it? It must look terrible from where you are. It doesn't look much better from where I am. But you can see now we're coming up through the layers. We've got cleaner wood. We've got cleaner wood with fewer shadows. So we're just pulling these off. Got to make sure you pull the right layer off, hence why I'm using different different thicknesses of tape, and we're working on the horizontals now. Come across there nicely. Now the really nice thing about this is that it doesn't really all come together visually until you get the last layer of tape off. What I originally wanted to do is have it woven, so you got one over, under, over, under, over, under across the whole piece. And I spent this afternoon stressing my brain, thinking, how the hell can I do that in 2 hours? And in the end, I went, you know what, I can't do it in 2 hours. It will just be far too much sitting around watching masking tape going on and off. So here's a bit more flame going on the next layer, and I really hope this is going to look good when it's finished. I'm sure it will.
Dan is saying, or asking, how in the world did you imagine this design in your mind?
That's a good question. How did I imagine it in my mind? That's a really good question. Thank you for asking that. How did I imagine it? Well, I think it was a case of I like 3 dimensions, and I did something. Well, yeah, it's not quite how I want it, but anyway, I did something with a student yesterday, which was on the thumbnail for this live, where we did just a straightforward 3-dimensional sort of lattice work. And then my mind went, oh, 3D lattice work, that looks really cool. Then I was thinking, 1982, 1983, watching Tron. Do you remember Tron? The original one with Jeff Bridges in it, although the new one's got Jeff Bridges in it too. Anyway, so the original one with a young Jeff Bridges, and you've got, all of those graphics, and everything's, scattered out, and it sort of looks like this. That's where the idea came from, and I've always fancied doing something a bit like this. Anyway, something 3D-y, but hopefully quite deep 3D that looks really deep, something like that, I'm just cleaning the brush out. One thing I did forget to mention, it was in the video at the very beginning of the demo, in the opening 10 minutes, as it were. Do make sure, if you're doing a lot of airbrushing, that you wear a vapor mask. Atomized colours probably aren't particularly good for you, so just make sure that you are wearing a vapor mask. I mean, obviously I'm not, because I'm talking whilst I'm doing it, but do what you can to look after yourself with those. Right, next we're working on the next layer of diagonals, which is these ones, and I've changed the colour as well. I've changed the colour to burnt orange, so we're still in the warm colours, but the tone of the colour is getting a little bit darker. So you might be able to see now how it's going to sort of come together. Yeah, you can kind of see how it's coming together. Is that all of those ones from the fan out? I think that's all of it. Yes, yeah, that's good. Right, so burnt orange now, and we're doing the diagonals. Make sure it is the right colour. Get those colours in there nice and quick. Yeah, you can just see here, look, where it's beginning to look a little bit more 3D. This is the colour I'm using. It's burnt orange. It's really lovely. It's obviously it's a warm colour, but it's got sort of undertones or overtones of terracotta. That's the word I'm looking for. And I think I'll do the next one burnt orange as well. So I'm just drying that off.
Colin is asking, have you thought about numbering the tapes as they go down and then reverse the order coming back?
Very, very good point there, Colin. Yes, I have thought about numbering the tapes, but to be honest, numbering them in a demonstration like this would take far too long, hence why I go down in tape thicknesses and do this bit and then that bit separately. But numbering the tapes would be a really good idea if you've got the time to do it. Okay, right, there we are. So we're nearly there. I'm going to change to ruby. Actually, I think the burnt orange. Oh, I know what I could do. I could do burnt orange just on the edges, and then do ruby in the middle. That will look nice. So I'll do burnt orange just coming down the edges there. And this side. I was actually playing with gold paint through the airbrush earlier, and I think the residue of the gold paint is just sticking a little bit too much to the inside. I did clean it. Oh no, I'll tell you what it is. I haven't taken that map pin out the back. There's the colour.
Jenny is asking, might it also be possible to find thinner tapes in different colours?
Yeah, good question. I'm sure there are thinner tapes in different colours. If you look in the bottom there, there's a green one that's really, really thin. So yes, I'm sure you could find thinner tapes in different colours. Not sure. I'm sure you'll be able to find them in vinyl as well. There must be something somewhere around automotive suppliers. You know, guys that do pinstriping on cars and stuff, and you know those really gorgeous, beautifully decorated motorcycle fuel tanks and what have you. So I'm sure you can get those, Jenny. You must be able to. Just looking for the ruby next. Ruby, there it is. It's always the last one you pick up, isn't it? So
Ligia is asking, the Robertson's gold paint?
Robertson's gold paint. How did you know I use Robertson's gold paint? Who said that?
Ligia.
Ligia, do you keep notes of what I've got? Yes, the Robertson's gold paint. Yeah, I tried that, but I was messing around a little bit, and I couldn't quite get it to work properly. Right, so there's burnt orange and ruby in the middle. That looks nice. Now we can take off the last layer, and this is the one that's going to... This is the layer that's going to potentially make or break the whole piece. Right, let's take this off. Let's fold that back up there, and we'll do this. We'll do this ruby. Wow, that's interesting. Right. Now I want to make this area a little bit darker, so I'm going to hit that with some black from a distance. So yeah, so this area here I want a bit darker, so I'll hit it with some black from a distance. So I'm now standing up, because as it goes off into the distance I want it to look a little bit darker. So I'm standing up, and let's go back over the spindle cam. Go along the horizon line. In fact, I'll take that off as well. There you go, you can see now we've got that 3D mark, and I just want to get that horizon much darker. But with a nice gradient. So let's just bring that dark line down to about here somewhere. Wow. And then I think what we'll do at the top is up there-ish. I think we'll do, yeah, I think up here we'll do a little bit of plum. Again, I really love the plum colour, it's nice and rich. Very opulent colour, the plum. Well, am I going to do the plum? Am I going to do ruby? No, I'm going to do ruby because it's already dark up there, so we'll just put a little bit of ruby just across the top. Working in an arc shape, I'll put a little bit around there as well. Yeah. Oh, what are we going to do next? I'm getting all carried away. I mustn't get carried away. Just get rid of the ruby that's in the brush, and I think we'll see if we can get a little bit of the honey yellow sat in there. It'll be very dark, but we might just be able to get a little hint of it. And then we really must move on with the finishing of it. There's just a hint. So I'm working at a distance, and I'm keeping the brush moving all the time. I'm not stopping in one place. I'm moving the brush and then starting the spray, so we don't end up with a, you know, a big blob. as it were. Let's just give that a little bit of honey down there as well. Yeah, okay, I think that'll do. Right, let's clean the brush, and I need to move the brushes over onto the workbench. Let's just clean that out. I quite like that. I noticed Barry saying it reminds him of the stained glass. Yes, I know what you mean. The sunrise in the stained glass above the old-fashioned doors. Give the brush a little squirt with meths. I will do it better with proper airbrush cleaner, probably tomorrow. Put that down there. One nice thing about this new workshop, when the cameras work properly, is that down here I've got everything I need. I don't know if you'll see it. No. Must look at the settings to find out why all the webcams have stopped working. Just giving that a little dry off now with a hot air gun. I can't remember who was asking about it earlier, but yes, the grain has been raised. The grain has raised up a little bit, but as I said, I'm not overly concerned about that, mainly because my next step is going to be removing that, or taking that back down. There, let's have a look. Now if I just swing on to camera 3, boom, yeah, look at that. That's really interesting. Let's lose the Pro mount, I don't need that. So we're going to get rid of the grain, the raised grain. I'm going to pick up a bunch of shavings and we're going to start the lathe and just give it just a little wipe over, just like that. And that has left that surface really nice and smooth. Do a little bit more on the edge. Don't just pick up any old shavings off the floor of your workshop. Make sure they are the shavings of the piece you have been working on. There we go. The colours in real life do look a little bit more saturated than they do on the camera. So now we're going to finish this, and I'm going to start with spray sealer. Ah, there we go. Right, so what I do like to do when I have more time is actually put oil over the piece first, just to make the colours pop a little bit. But I haven't got time to do that. So I'm going to use spray sealer. Take precautions when using spray products in your workshop. Make sure you've got doors and windows open, you're wearing a vapour mask, etc, etc. And if you have an air filter with a vapour barrier, as it were, on the front, then make sure you use that as well. So camera 2, position 1, there we go. Right, let's give this a couple of coats of sealer. So I'm doing this quite quickly, so I'm doing it a lot quicker than I would do normally. So I'm pushing this sealer right to its limit, because although I want it to go on thickly, I obviously don't want it to run.
satin. Lydia is asking if would liquid sealer make the colors run and get rid of the lines?
That's a very good question, Lydia. Yes, if you use a wipe-on sealer now, what will happen is that the solvent in the sealer would literally spread the colours around a little bit. So if you're going to use a sealer, definitely use a spray one. Oh yeah, good question. I should have said that. I'm using the Hampshire Sheen Professional Matte Sanding Sealer Spray. 2 coats should be enough. I mean, that was quite a heavy coat there, but I will put on another one just to be on the safe side. And I've just got a little bit of dust on there as well, so I'll just clean that off. It does dry very quickly, and even quicker if you encourage it with a hot air gun like I did. So hold the can about 20 centimetres from the piece and give it a nice even coating. You've got to move fairly quickly over the piece, because if you dawdle, if you do it too slowly, it will start to run because you put too much on, and obviously you don't want to put too much on and have it run. It is a cellulose based sealer, yes. So I'm going to start the lathe and have it running slowly just to get a little bit of airflow running over it, and if I put the fan on that's above the lathe as well, that will help, and then we can make sure that's dry nice and quickly. Okay, well, I'll just let that cool down a little bit. Oh, there it is. There's the sealer spray just there. And then for the final finish, we will use satin lacquer. There you go. I'm choosing satin for this rather than gloss, simply because glossy stuff, I think at least, a glossy finish on a piece sort of this big, with that much sort of depth to it, then a glossy finish is you're going to lose the depth. You're going to lose some of the appearance in a really shiny finish. So we'll go with the satin lacquer. That looks good. Right. I can smooth that surface down a bit by grabbing. So this is denibbing again. Just denib that sealer just a bit. Make sure you're happy that it's dry before you do that. Oh, I haven't got my safety. These are my reading glasses, not my safety glasses. Yeah, make sure you're happy that the sealer's dry before you denib it. Otherwise, you're going to smear it and it's going to end up looking terrible. So, take your time. Don't rush. Don't do what I'm doing. Don't rush it. So I'll put on the satin lacquer. So I'm putting it on quickly and evenly. And yeah, I am putting on quite a lot for each coat just to get it on quickly, because I'm very conscious of the time. Run the lathe slowly because it's 9:30. I need to go to bed and I haven't even hollowed out the bowl yet. So we'll do that fairly quickly, but you can see now that where we've got the sealer and the lacquer on there, those colours have become a little bit more contrasty, a little bit more vivid. That's exactly what we're looking for. You know what? I just want to write Pink Floyd across there. It looks a bit like an album cover, doesn't it? Any Pink Floyd fans in this evening? Just give that a gentle touch. Yep, that's good. Right, I am going to do another coat of this. Because I'm really pleased with how this has turned out. This is probably going to be one of the few demonstration pieces that don't end up on the fire at the end of the year. And I haven't forgotten, I still need to finish the back. I'll have to do that. I'll have to do that tomorrow. Yeah, I definitely want to get the bowl hollowed out, because that's going to be that when we hollow the bowl out and sand the rim off, that's going to really tie the piece together. It's going to just frame everything really, really nicely. Be very careful using a hot air gun with spray products, not least because you've got to be careful of the flammability of spray products, but also if you get them too hot when they're on the piece, they have a habit of blistering, and that's really bad news. We definitely don't want the piece blistering. Okay, right, that's now dry. That's gone off really, really quickly. Now we can hollow out the bowl. This is where this is sphincter clenching time, because one false move now with the bowl gouge and we can absolutely trash the piece. And I really don't want to trash the piece. So I've really got to concentrate on what I'm doing. But this will just tie everything together. It's the most exciting part of a piece like this. Let's get that in there nicely. Dun, dun, dun. Right, I'm going to use a sharp gouge. I sharpened this one earlier. Going to get comfortable for the end of the cut. Get the tool rest up a little bit higher. Can move it in a little bit closer as well. Make sure it still doesn't touch though. A little bit high. That'll do. Right, get some speed going. Now when we get out to here, this is where it's all going to tie together really nicely. The tourises are just a tiny bit high still. I've got to make sure it's absolutely bang on where I like it. A little bit more speed. Whoop. I also don't want to go too deeply, of course, because the piece is fairly thin. Stop there and check my depth. I've got loads of room, he says, hopefully. Right, last cut. There we go. couple of very delicate little cuts across the bottom. A little lump. Let's just get rid of that. Yeah, now that's tied that together really well. Yeah, now what we'll do next, very, very quickly, because we've already finished the surface, I'm going to sand the bowl, sand the rim, and add a little key line to the edge of the piece. So if we can switch the extractor on, please. Lovely. And I think I am going to do it gold, you know.
So we'll do a little bit of sanding. We don't need to do very much. But I've got to be very careful not to slip over the side here. I've got my mask on again. Just going to stop the lathe just there and have a look to see if we've got rid of any overspray on there. Yes, we do. Got a little chamfer on this edge. You didn't see any of that, I'm afraid, because of that camera angle. Little chamfer on that edge. Now that's going to tie those. That's going to tie all those colours, or all the decoration together. Look. That's a little bit of 180, and we'll do 240, and I think we'll leave it there for sanding because I have decided I'm going to do the bowl gold. Do the rim and that chamfer. Clean off the dust. There's a little bit of dust left in there, but I will show you how I get rid of that. Tailstock camera. Oh, that's stopped as well now. No, it hasn't. Put it up that way. There we go. Oh. Right, if you get a little bit of dust in the grain of a piece like this, can you switch off the extractor? If you get a little bit of grain in the dust, if you get a little bit of dust in the grain, gosh, it's getting late. What you can do is you can use a tiny little bit of oil. I like to do this. You can use a tiny little bit of oil on a piece of towel. Let's just zoom in a little bit closer. Camera 2. You can just see in here that we've got a little bit of dust in the grain where we haven't put quite enough lacquer on there, or quite enough sealer. Tiny little bit of oil. Straight over the top of the lacquer. It doesn't do it any harm at all.
Martin, Alan D is asking, are intrinsic colours classed as hazardous for postage, or can they be shipped?
That's a good question. Officially, they are. Officially, the intrinsic colours are classed as hazardous because there is a flammable element to them. Yeah, officially they are classed as hazardous because there is a flammable element to them. However, in testing here at the workshop, I have done my darndest to try and set fire to them, and I have never succeeded. So I will be changing them to being designated as non-hazardous. soon. When we get round to relabeling and stuff, I will be designating them as non-hazardous, because I just cannot set fire to them. I have tried on numerous occasions. Right, so I've decided I'm going to do the bold gold. I have decided, because I think that would just give it, you know, a major pop. So here is my Robertson's gold metal acrylic paint, and I'm going to do this with the lathe running. Now, I normally say to people, don't apply stuff with the lathe running, but for this I want sort of a swirly effect on the inside. Again, I've never done this before, I've got no idea how it's going to turn out, so wish me luck. And I'm definitely not going to do it with the lathe running very quickly, that's for sure. See if I've got a slightly smaller paintbrush. Yeah, so I've got a choice of this one or that one, but this one is really horrible crap. And I'll use the really cheap one to start with. Slow the lathe down because I want to put a blob in the middle and then draw the paint out up to the edge. So that's too fast. So we'll slow it down to 300-400, a bit slower, and I want plenty of paint on the brush, and I definitely don't want the lathe fast enough that it's going to throw the paint out. That could be quite an interesting effect though. Slow it down even more because I'm getting worried. Here we go. It's a bit like putting a pottery glaze on. I can't get it all the way to the rim. Ah, that's funny. Yeah, that's come all the way to the rim. I've got a little bit of paint just sat on the rim. A little bit of kitchen towel should just sort that out. Still a little bit there. Just rubbing that off carefully. I think that's done. And hopefully that paint won't run, as it were. I need to put a little bit more on. Actually, there's a touch missing on the very top. Yep, that'll do. There's still a bit missing right there. Is my head in the way? No. Was my head in the way?
It was, yes.
Oh, it was. Okay, let's zoom that in a little bit more then. there's still, can you see that? There's a bit just there that's missing. I don't want to put any more paint in there, I'll fill it up. That's got it. Right. Now I've just got to get rid of that tiny little bit that's over the top. That'll do. That'll do. I don't want to do any more. But there is a line there. There. That's better. That looks a little bit more even. And that brush can go in the bin because it really is terrible. Don't need that. The lid's back on the paint over there. That's good. Now I'll take this off the lathe to give you a slightly better idea of the scale of it. I'm going to leave it on its chuck though. There we are. Oop. So there we go. Get it the right way up and point it sort of that way. There we are, everybody. Somewhat 3 dimensions with that nice sort of glowing golden ball in the middle. I quite like that. That looks quite nice. Natalia's just taking a picture. Lovely. Good. Right. Let's bring this in a little bit closer. Get it the right way up. I really hope I don't drop it. The chuck's very heavy. So there we go. We've got that really nice 3D effect on there. I will finish the back of this tomorrow and post some pictures. So you've got that really nice golden ball, as it were, sat on the top there. I would put it up there, but it's too big. I tried with another blank. So there we go, everybody. I'll do some proper pictures of it tomorrow. Okay, right, last chance for any questions before we close the demo down. So if you've got, thank you for all of the likes on there, by the way. So if you've got any questions, please do ask. Now is your last chance to ask them for this week. Remember, next week I'm going to be doing a demonstration over on Zoom. You can find the information about that at msaban-smith.com. If the closing video plays, you'll be able to see the website address there. So next week there is a demonstration over on Zoom. If you are a member of my mailing list on msaban-smith.com, or you are a member of Woodturning 360, you will get a discount code for that demonstration. But otherwise, it'll be 7 o'clock next Tuesday evening, where we will be turning a box just like this one. Oh, it's up there, not that camera. Box like this one out of some very posh timber. Nice little inlaid box. We've got on-screen overlays and all sorts of stuff for that demonstration next week. Other than that, I can't remember the date we are up here next. I think it's 2 weeks. 2 weeks today. It could be 3. I can't remember. Paul's asking, any sign of you in God's own island this year? Not sure, Paul. Possibly much later on, around November time. I don't know. I'm not even 100% sure what's going on in the next couple of weeks. But thank you for asking. Stuart, thank you, Stuart. I'm glad you like it. Here it is again. I would love to have gone over and under on each of the lines, but it's just not time to do that. So any further questions? It's 10 to 10. Oh, Tony, how are you going to remount that? Oh, good question, Tony. In these coal jaws just here. It'll be absolutely fine. 175 NT, thank you very much. Glad you liked it. Robert, thank you. Spunby green jeans, that always makes me giggle. Thank you as well. Right, if there are no other questions, I will give you a few more because there are 20 odd seconds. There is sort of a 20-second delay between what I say and you guys hearing it and acting on it. Clara, oh, my lovely daughter down in Chichester, she really enjoyed it, bless her. Thank you for watching, Clara. I really enjoyed it too, despite the hiccup with the webcams, which I really must investigate. Oh, you all really enjoyed it. Oh, she's there with the girls in the house. Evening, ladies. Right, if there's nothing else, I'm going to see if the end video will work. If it doesn't, I'll just bid you all farewell. So thank you very much indeed for watching. Remember, next week is a demo on Zoom. Head to msabansmith.com/live for information about that and booking your ticket to come and see that. Otherwise, I'll see you in a couple of weeks for another freebie here on YouTube. Thanks for watching, everybody. Good night. Is it going to work? No, the end isn't working, so I will just bid you all good night. Thank you very much indeed for watching. Take care. See you soon.